Okay, so today we will start the new thing, and which is the SQL part actually. Okay, SQL. What does mean that SQL, guys? Hmm? What is SQL?
Structured query language.
It's a structured query language, right? Yes. Okay. So this particular sessions, this particular module, which is comes under the SQL. Okay. This stands for it is structured structured okay query language. Okay, so what exactly the structured query language? As of now, we see the Python programming language, right? So what is the use of the Python programming language? So for example, if it is the programming language, let me consider Python. Okay, so with help of the Python, what we can do, we can write the code or we can write the instructions to do any one of the specific task, any task actually. Okay, by mission, right? If you want to performing any one of the tasks by the mission, then we should write the code with help of the any programming language. That's the use of the programming language. But here SQL is the it's a database language, nothing but it's a structured query language. So here with help of this one, what we can do, which is also language, SQL also it's a language. But what we are doing actually, we are not writing the code, we are writing the queries. Okay, so with help of
Sir,
this particular, yes, tell me.
screen is not shared, sir.
True. Now can you see my screen? Guys, can you able to see my screen or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So guys, what I'm trying to tell you, I'm talking about SQL. It means a structured query language. So as of now, we've seen only programming languages. So there are different programming languages are there. So which is C, C++, Java, Python, whatever it is. Those programming languages, it can help you to write some script or to write some programs, and it can be done by the CPU. So it can be that particular task, it can be done by the CPU or mission, right? But here, what about SQL? SQL is the database language. Database database language, nothing but. So database language means there we are writing the code, there we are writing the code to do some kind of manipulations on the database, to work on the or to do some kind of manipulation on database. Okay, so what kind of manipulations we are doing on the database? Okay, to store the data, to store the data, or to manipulate the data, to manipulate the data. Okay, as well as to retrieve the data. So wherever we see storing the data, manipulating the data, retrieval the data. So wherever we have it, here the data is comes to the part, right? So we are working on the data or not? When it comes to the programming language, we are writing the task based upon the we are writing the code based upon the task, and that it can be executed by the machine. That means it can be operated or it can be done by the machine actually. But when it comes to the database language, so data wherever we are working on the data for storing, manipulating, retrieving on databases, on relational databases, for that one SQL will help you a lot. Any questions? What exactly use of this one? What exactly use of this one? Did you got my point or not?
Yes, sir.
So what is the use of it? Storing. Second one is manipulating. Third one is retrieving. Okay, retrieving data. Okay, storing the data, manipulating the data, retrieving the data on databases or in databases. So databases are different kind of databases are there. I will explain you what are the databases we have it. Okay. So basically SQL is nothing but it's a language. It's a computer language. What it is? It is also computer language, but it's not a programming language. But here the computer language, SQL is the computer language. The use of this one is storing the data, manipulating the data, retrieving the data on databases. That is the use of the SQL. Okay, that is exactly the definition of the SQL. Okay, is it clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here I already told you, right? So there are different on databases, right? What kind of databases are using the SQL? What type of databases we are using this particular SQL language for manipulating or storing or retrieving the data on databases? So there are different kind of relational databases are there. Okay, relational databases. We have lot many relational databases are there. So what are those? If you have any idea, you can please list out it. All relational database management systems, which are something like MySQL, MS Access, Microsoft Access, okay, SQL Server, okay, and we have other no SQLite 3, SQLite, MongoDB, IBM, DB2. Okay, see these are all relational databases only. Okay, so MySQL is one of the database, MS Access is one of the database, SQL Server is one of the database, SQLite is one of the database, and DB2 is one of the database. Something like we have a lot of relational databases are there. This all relational databases which are something like servers, just something like servers actually. This all servers, this is server computer. Server is nothing but it's a computer, guys, again. Okay, but the server computer which is just storing the data, it's only for working on the data, only for do storing, just to store the data on servers. They're using different database servers which are MySQL, Access, MS Access, SQL Server, SQLite 3, DB2, and many more. Okay, these are all database servers. This all database servers, it will be using the SQL language. Is it clear? Is this clear or not?
Yes.
Let me consider when we are working with a database, you should remember the two things. One is the server side, and second one is the client side. Okay, so usually as of now, you're working on your local machine, right? You're working on as of now your local machine, right? Okay, this local machine, which means it's a server, but it's a local server. And for example, if you're installing the Python software, for example Python 3 software you installed, right? So this is the software. Okay, so this is a software you are installed in your computer. Let me consider you are working on your local machine actually. For example, okay, this is server only, but your software also you installed in the local machine only, right? So here your software and your mission both are in the same location or same servers or same mission. So you can say that say both server and client in the both system it is acting. Okay, so for example, whatever the program, for example you written some kind of Python code, this code we are giving to this particular Python program, that means through this particular software, and this is a software which is available on your local machine only. Actually this is the local machine, it can be working like a client. Okay, see whatever the Python 3 software you installed on your local machine can be working like a client actually, but your local machine can be working like a server. So when yeah, both your local machine and your local machine can be working, it can be do two things. It can be acting like server as well as it can be acting like a client. Okay, so when we are writing the Python program on your Python software and you're running on your local you're running on your local machine, that means which is executing on the server itself. Okay, but unfortunately both are same. Let me consider for understanding of this one, this is server. Okay, this is server. Okay, this is the client. Okay, server is itself, it's a computer only. So for example, you install the Python 3. Both are not same missions. You install the Python 3 software, okay, and this guy, he is the developer, he written the code on this particular client, okay, with help of this particular Python software. He written the code. Whenever he running this particular server, sorry, whenever he running this particular code from the client, then it will be executing on the, it will be executing on the server, so that it will do the operation on the server and it can be producing some result. The result will be sending back to the client again. Okay, so whatever the code you implemented, that particular code we are executing on the server, it will be generating the output and which is giving back to the client itself. Okay, usually it is happening in real time. Okay, in the same way, when you are talking about the database, so here also we have the server and here also we have the client. Okay, so server is your database server, actually database server. So here the client is your machine. Let me consider your computer. Okay, so for example, if you want to be store some data into this particular okay, server, so you should have a software, you should have a software. So this is a software which is manipulating the database, right? So that this is the software we are calling it, say, database management system. Database management system. Is it clear my point? So whenever you should have a software, you should have a software in a client side. This particular software, it can help you to interact with the server. Okay, so this is a software, technically we are calling it a database management system, and so this server we are calling it a database server, and this is a client, we are calling it a database client. So database client, so the database client, it should have a, it should have a software, and this software you should install at client side, and this particular software we are calling it, say, database management system. Okay, what is the use of this one? We can write the some language, we can write the SQL queries on the software. Okay, when we are writing some kind of queries on the software, it can be connected to this particular server, and here we have a lot of databases are there. So for example, this is db1, db2, like the server, it can having the multiple databases, database servers, it can have the multiple databases, multiple databases. So let me consider, this is my server, this is my server. Inside of the server you have the different databases are there. This is one database, this is second database, okay, this is third database, something like this. We have the n number of databases are there. Okay, so these are the dbs. This is server. The server, it contains the multiple databases. Okay, so for example, this is the databases. What will be happening? So inside of the databases, it may have the multiple tables. So the structure is DB server. Inside of the DB server, so we have the databases. Inside of the databases, the data, it is in the format of tabular format. Is it clear? So this kind of thing, it will be available at server side. Now what we are doing, actually, with help of this particular software, you are connected with this particular database server, and we can able to work with any kind of database. Which database you want to work with, so you just need to work, actually it's up to your choice. Is it clear? Is there any question, guys?
No.
Is there any question? Do you need one more time explanation?
No.
Good enough. So at client side, we should have a software. The software name is what? Database management system or software. So the client side, server side, what we have it? The server side, it is having the databases. Okay, so the databases which contains the tables. Each database, it may contains the multiple tables. The each table, it is having the data in a tabular format, right? So columns and rows or records. These columns, we can call it the features. Okay, columns, features, this is the headers, we are calling it a columns or features, and except the headers, whatever we have some number of lines of information we have it, right, in a tabular format, this is the things we are calling it a rows or records. Server, which is consisting the databases, the databases consisting the tables which is consisting the columns and rows, the columns we are calling it the features, and rows we are calling it the records. Clear? Yep. So for example, this is the database software. It depends upon the database we are working on it. So whichever the database server we are working on it, the corresponding software we should use it. For example, I'm using the SQL server, SQL. For example, the database SQL server. Okay, SQL server is the one server. Okay, when we are using the SQL server, so whatever the software you want to be installed client side, that software it must be okay. So MS something micros data SQL server management, SQL server management studio, SSMS. Okay, this is a software you should install at client side. This is servers. So for example, if I'm using the SQL server, you should install the software at client side. You should install the software at client side. The name of the software is SSMS. That means SQL Server Management Studio. Clear? For example, if you are using the MySQL server, so the MySQL it having its own database management system. So MySQL database management studio we should use it at client side. So based upon the software we are based upon the server we are working on it, based upon the server we are working on it, so that specific software you should install at client side. Is it clear? So for example, for all servers it is the software is not same. For every server it having its own client software. For every new for every new database server, it having its own client side database management studio or database management system. Any questions?
No.
No questions, right? So here my question is, why we need SQL? As of now, you understood what is SQL, and if you want to work with SQL, you should have the two things we need to remember: server side and client side. Server side, which is having the database servers, and based upon the database servers, we should install the software in our client side system or client side computers. Okay, so then we have to start writing the SQL query on that particular database server actually. Okay, or database software, database management studio. So why we require the SQL? Can anybody answer these questions? As of now, we talk about what is SQL, right? So it could be easy actually. See, for
Storing.
example, yeah, for example, this is a servers. This is the servers. It is having the data, right? See, when we are using the SQL, so it can allows the users, okay, to access the data. So database systems or SQL is a language. It can help you, allows the user to access the data in database servers. Okay, this is one point with help of the database management systems. Okay, second one is, so if you want to describe the data, whatever the data we have in databases, if you want to describe that particular data, then SQL can be help you. SQL can be help you. The SQL what it is doing actually, which is strictly working on the data only, right? So which is connecting the servers which can be accessing the data and which is doing some kind of manipulations, right? So by the time you can able to describe the data. Okay, so the SQL it can help you describe the data and to access, it can allows the user to access the data, and moreover to define the data, okay, and manipulating the data. So you can able to write some data into the databases, and as well as if you want to be manipulating the data in databases, that we can do with help of the SQL only. Last but not least, so what we can do, and so here the servers which is having the databases, right? Here the servers, it may have the lot of databases, right? For example, db1, db2 and db3. So this is the databases you can create as well as we can remove actually. Okay, so users can able to create the databases as well as you can able to remove the databases from the servers, create and drop the databases and tables and other stuff. You can able to create the databases and as well as we can drop the databases. Meanwhile, we can create the tables as well as we can drop the tables as well. Okay, we can defining the data into the databases and we can manipulating the data from that particular databases, and from that one we can describe the data from that particular databases, and moreover you can able to give the access to the users to access the data from the databases. This all things which is done by the language. The name of the language is SQL. I hope you clear my point. SQL is structured query language which is used to storing, manipulating, retrieving the data in relational databases. Clear? There are different kind of relational databases are there: SQL Server, Oracle, MS SQL, and so my MS Access. Different kind of standard databases are there. So there we are going to be using the SQL as the standard database language. Okay, these are the reasons we are using the SQL in databases. Now as of now this is fine, right? Every time I'm giving the name is database, database, database. What is database? What is database, right? So database means, so the database which is available in the server side. Okay, what is the use of this particular database and what is database? First of all, database means is an organized collection of data. What it is? So you can able to organize the data in a structural format. Collection of organized collection of structured information. Structured information. Is it clear my point? So for example, let me consider this is the server. So the server which is having the database, right? Databases, right? For example, what will be there inside of the databases? So what we can do? So here the database, what we are doing actually, whatever the data we collected or whatever the information we collected, that we can able to organize it in a structured format. Okay, that we can able to manage it in a structured format, or we can organize the data in a structured format, because that exactly we are calling it saying databases. Okay, and here one more point you need to remember. So here data typically stored where the data can be stored? Tell me guys, where the data can be stored? Data typically stored electronically. Okay, data stored electronically in a computer systems. So usually the data it can be holding into the computer systems or not. Okay, so this kind of databases we can able to control. This databases can be controlled by the database management systems. Databases are controlled by by whom? Database management systems. Database management systems. As of now you already know it. So simply database means which is just organizing the data or organized collection data in a structural format. Okay, any questions guys as of now? So as of now I just explain what is SQL. Second one is why SQL. Third one is what is database. Okay, and what are the databases we have it that we seen as of now. Any questions?
Clear, sir. Sir,
We cannot hear you, sir.
Okay. See, I would like to talk about SQL structure. Okay, SQL structure means it's a database server. So you can see this is the rectangular box, right? Let me consider this is my database server. Okay, so this database server, or else we can call it say RDBMS, or else we can call it a platform. So this is a server. It might having the collection of databases: database 1, database 2, database 3. For example, database 4. These are all databases. Okay, they're all databases. On each databases it is having the tables, right? So this is one table, and this is one table, and this one is one table. So these are the red color things, are it's a tables. The tables are which is collection of the data, sorry, the database, sorry, the database which is collection of the tables. So like this we have where thousands of tables we have it. Like this we have a thousands of tables we have it. Okay, so for example, this is one table. The table header we are calling it's a columns, or else variables or fields. We can call it's a fields, or else columns, or else features. Okay, and here we have a data. For example, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is for example Anjan, and this is Kumar, and this is Sai, and this is Revant, right? So for example, okay, so when we are holding the data in such a format, okay, so these are the things we can call it a rows or records. So this is the SQL structure, guys. So usually the SQL structure, the database structure, it could be something like this only. Is there any questions? The structure of the database or the structure of the SQL?
No.
No?
No.
No?
No, sir.
No? You need one more time explanation?
No.
Sorry, what is mean that no? You need one more time explanation, or else you don't need it.
I
Whether
don't
you
think it.
understood or not understood.
Yeah, I understood.
Okay, all of you. Guys, if you're anyone facing any issue, please let me know. I will try to explain one more time. So if you understood the SQL structure, so let's try to go for understanding the how the SQL is process your queries. SQL process. See, you already know that. So let me consider this is my database. This is my database. Okay. So this is my database. I need to work with this particular database. Okay. First, what you should write actually. So you are going to be writing some SQL query. So as of now, I'm not explaining any queries. Okay. You just written on particular query. So this is the query. What it is doing. This is the query language processor. So it was converting into zeros and ones. Query language processor. So which is process that particular query, and then which is giving the database engine, DBMS engine. So this is the database engine. It can be work on your database actually. Okay, so this is the process. So whatever the SQL query we are written, and if you want to work on that particular query on the database, so in the middle we should have two things. One is the SQL query language processor. It can be converts your SQL query to zeros and ones, that it can be processed by that it can be executing on database with help of the DBMS engine. Clear? So this is the process of executing the SQL query, guys. So wherever we are talking, so we are always working on the database which is holding the data only, right? So the database which is holding the data or not? The data, it is in a different formats. So let's go for understanding the what is data. What is data? And what is information? What is the difference between those information and data? Tell me. So what is data and what is information? Tell me, guys. What is the difference between the data and information? So data means it's individual unit. It contains the raw material. Okay, it contains the raw material. So raw material, right? So simply what I'm trying to tell you, data is an individual unit that contains the raw material. Okay, and moreover, which is not carrying any information, any specific information. Okay, which is not carrying any specific information, any specific meaning. Okay, so basically here the data which is not depending on the information, but when it comes to the information, we are talking something about information. For example, we have a group of data. Okay, information is a group of data that collectively carries the logical meaning, which is having some kind of logical meaning. So when coming to the data it doesn't have the specific meaning actually, but information it might having the specific meaning. Okay, but it is depending on the data only. So if we have data, then only we can get the information, but data it is not having specific meaning. Clear? I can give some example for understanding. So for example, tomorrow we have a class. Tomorrow we have a class. Tomorrow we have a class. This is the data. So you don't know when the class could be, right? For example, so tomorrow at 8:30 or 8 p.m. we have a class. So which is having the more meaning?
Second one, sir.
Second one, right? Tomorrow we have a class. So that is also, it's a data. So tomorrow we have the class, that is the data. But the data, when it is doesn't have any specific meaning. So when the class and who is taking the class and this kind of information, you don't have it. But here at 8 p.m. we have a class and the trainer is Anjan Kumar, and we are going to talking about some SQL advanced concepts. So there, which is having some meaningful information, right? A meaningful data, right? Tomorrow we have a class. What is the class and who is taking the class and who are participating in that particular class and what could be the invitation? So this kind of information we should know, right? Yes or no? So that's a small difference between the data and information. I hope you got it my point, the difference between the data and information.
Yes.
If you don't have any questions, if you have any kind of question, please let me know. I will try to answer you. I would like to try to answer your questions. Please ask me whatever you have. Now, what are the things I explain as of now? Okay, it could be help you, and meanwhile you can Google it, guys. Okay, whatever the concept I explain you, so you just Google it, guys. SQL is pretty much important wherever you go. Without SQL knowledge, we cannot survey in the software industry. Okay, so I explained the following topics as of now. What is SQL? Second one is why SQL, and third one is what is database, and fourth one is SQL structure or structure of SQL, and fifth one is SQL process, third one is what is data, and what is information. Okay, what is database and what is database management system. Okay, so this is the things I explain as of now. If you have any questions from this particular topics, we can ask me any kind of thing. I will try to answer you. So tomorrow we can continue the SQL, like what are the SQL statements, like when you're learning Python programming language. In the same way, we started with the comments and variables, and so right, we seen many things, right? In the same way, so by tomorrow's session, we would like to talk about different kind of statements in SQL. Those things we'll talk actually. Okay, clear? And meanwhile, we have to go for using any one of the SQL server. Okay, so either SQL server or SQL SQLite, whatever it is. So we would like to go for using any one of the database. So that I would like to show you by tomorrow's session. See you guys. Bye. Take care.
Bye.